It is all coming to an end tomorrow because of what you have done. Chosen one, do not scroll away from this moment, because this is not just another message passing across your screen. This is a sacred interruption, a divine warning, a hidden key placed before you at the exact hour your spirit needed confirmation. You have felt it, haven't you? That strange heaviness in your chest, that silence around certain people, that restless feeling at night when your mind keeps returning to the same pain, the same question, the same wound you tried to bury. Something shifted when you made that decision. Maybe you walked away. Maybe you stopped begging to be understood. Maybe you finally chose peace over proving yourself. Maybe you prayed through tears and whispered, "Lord, I cannot carry this anymore." Heaven heard that. God saw what no one else respected. And tomorrow, something tied to your old season begins to collapse. Not your life, not your blessing, not your future. What is ending is the chain that kept pulling you back into the same storm, the same fear, the same emotional prison, the same cycle of giving too much and receiving too little. This is why your spirit has been alert. This is why certain doors feel tense, certain conversations feel different, and certain memories are rising again. You are standing at a divine threshold, and if you leave too soon, you may miss the final secret that explains why the pressure became so intense right before the release. God is not allowing this ending to destroy you. He is allowing it to expose what could not follow you into the promise. The family burden, the financial fear, the relationship that drained your light, the work that made you question your worth, the hidden ache you carried while smiling in front of everyone. All of it is being brought before the throne of God. Stay here. Listen with your whole spirit. Because before this video ends, you will understand why tomorrow is not the day everything falls apart. It is the day the old chain breaks, the hidden door opens, and the version of you that survived in silence finally begins to rise. There was a moment you almost ignored because it looked too ordinary. No thunder, no open sky, no angel standing in front of you, just you, exhausted, standing at the edge of a choice that had been waiting for you for years. And when you finally made it, heaven moved. Not loudly, not for the crowd, not with applause from the people who never understood your war, but in the hidden place, where God measures obedience no one else can see. Something was sealed. You did not just walk away from a situation. You stepped out of agreement with the spirit that had been teaching you to tolerate less than God promised. You did not just stop answering a message. You stopped feeding a cycle. You did not just choose silence. You chose spiritual authority over emotional reaction. That is why the air feels charged now. That is why your heart feels strangely awake. Even when your body feels tired, a decision made in secret can become a command in the spirit, and this one did. God is drawing a line between the season that trained you and the season that reveals you. The people who benefited from your confusion may not know how to explain what they feel, but they can sense the shift. The pressure they placed on you is not working the same way anymore. The guilt that used to pull you back is losing its hook. The fear that used to speak first is being silenced by a deeper voice. This is the appointed time where hidden obedience becomes visible movement. Scripture says in Isaiah 4:3-19, "See, I am doing a new thing." And that is exactly why tomorrow carries weight. A new thing does not always arrive gently. Sometimes it begins by disturbing everything that was built on your pain. Sometimes it shakes the false peace so true peace can enter. Sometimes it removes the familiar cage before you even know how to walk freely. So do not call this anxiety if your spirit is really discerning transition. Do not call this loss if God is removing what was never assigned to go forward with you. The small step you took was heaven's evidence that you were ready. And now the next layer is coming. The chains you learned to live with are about to show you they were never stronger than the God who called you out. What is ending tomorrow is not a small inconvenience, not a passing emotion, not a temporary heaviness that will fade when the sun comes up. What is ending tomorrow is a chain that has been wrapped around your spirit for so long that you almost mistook its weight for your own personality. You learned to wake up tired. You learned to smile while your chest felt like a locked room. You learned to answer messages when your soul wanted silence. To keep peace in rooms where no one cared if you were breaking. To carry family burdens that were handed to you like an inheritance. To stretch your finances with trembling hands. To show up at work while your mind was fighting invisible wars. To lie awake at night, asking God why the same pain kept finding your address. But hear this with holy seriousness. Heaven is not treating this like a small matter. God is not casual about the thing that tried to drain the life He placed inside you, the cycle that kept you apologizing for needing rest, the pattern that made you feel guilty for having boundaries, the relationship that trained you to confuse attachment with love, the fear that made you shrink when you were born to stand. All of it has come before the throne, and when a chain comes before the throne of God, it does not leave with the same authority. This is why the pressure has increased. This is why old memories have been rising like smoke from a battlefield. This is why certain people feel restless around you. Why certain conversations feel heavier. Why your spirit has been sensing an ending before your eyes could see evidence. Darkness does not panic when nothing is changing. Darkness panics when it knows its time is running out. And tomorrow, the thing that held your peace hostage begins to lose its grip. Do not reduce this to emotion. Do not call it overthinking. Do not dismiss the sacred signal just because you are used to surviving quietly. Lewis once described pain as God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. And this pain has been loud because something in your life had to wake up before it was too late. Not to shame you, not to crush you, to rescue you from a place you had normalized because endurance became your language. Chosen one, there are storms God calms, and there are storms God uses to push you out of a shore you were never meant to settle on. Some fires come to destroy, and there are fires that reveal what cannot be burned. You are not standing in ordinary pressure. You are standing in a furnace of separation, where false attachments melt, fake loyalty is exposed, and the armor you did not know you were wearing begins to shine. The old chain is breaking, but chains do not break quietly. They make noise. They shake rooms. They disturb familiar patterns. They frighten the part of you that got used to captivity. That is why this moment feels serious, because it is. Tomorrow is not only about relief. It is about deliverance. It is about the end of emotional slavery, the end of being available to what wounds you, the end of letting fear speak louder than the promise of God over your life. If this is touching the place you have hidden from everyone, write, "I am ready to be free" in the comments. Do not write it casually. Write it as a declaration, and stay close. Because what happens next will reveal why certain people around you suddenly changed when your chains began to break. The silence around you is not empty. It is exposure beginning. Something has shifted in the atmosphere, and the people who once moved comfortably around your kindness are starting to feel the ground change beneath their feet. They may not say it. They may still smile. They may still pretend everything is normal. But their spirit recognizes what their mouth refuses to admit: the old version of you is no longer available. The version who explained too much, forgave too quickly, returned too easily, carried blame that was not yours, and made yourself smaller so others would not feel confronted by your light. That version is being buried at the threshold of tomorrow. And because of that, masks are falling, not through revenge, not through bitterness, not because you are chasing anyone down for answers. The masks are falling because God has turned on the light in rooms where people were comfortable hiding their intentions. Luke 17 says that nothing hidden will remain hidden, and nothing concealed will fail to be brought into the open. That is why conversations feel different now. That is why certain people seem distant, nervous, defensive, or strangely quiet. That is why the same person who once drained you may suddenly act confused when you no longer respond from weakness. Heaven is revealing who was connected to your purpose and who was only connected to your access. Some people loved what you gave them, but never honored what it cost you. Some enjoyed your loyalty, but never protected your heart. Some called you sensitive because your discernment made them uncomfortable. Some made you feel guilty for needing boundaries because your exhaustion benefited them. But the throne of God does not confuse manipulation with love. It does not confuse control with care. It does not confuse familiar voices with divine assignment. And now the truth is rising like morning light over a battlefield. You may see it in your family, when the same guilt no longer pierces you the way it used to. You may see it at work, when the people who overlooked your value begin to notice the strength they underestimated. You may see it in a relationship, when someone's words finally stop matching their actions and your spirit refuses to ignore the difference. You may see it in yourself, when the need to be chosen by people begins to die because you remember you were already chosen by God. This is serious. Chosen one. Because exposure is not only about seeing others clearly, it is also about seeing yourself clearly after years of being buried under their opinions. The light is not coming to humiliate you. The light is coming to separate you, to protect you, to pull your name out of places where your peace was being traded for approval. Have you felt someone's energy change around you lately? Have you felt your spirit whisper, "Something is not the same anymore"? Comment, "The truth is coming to light" if your heart already knew it before your eyes had proof. But stay close, because exposure is not the final secret. Exposure is only the doorway to restoration. You were not abandoned in the wilderness. You were being prepared in a place where no one could interrupt what God was building inside you. There were seasons when you looked around and felt forgotten, as if everyone else was moving forward while you were trapped between closed doors, unanswered prayers, and quiet battles that had no witnesses. You wondered why the people you loved could not understand the weight you were carrying. You wondered why your strength had to be tested through loneliness, why your faith had to be stretched through delay, why your heart had to keep breaking in places you never spoke about. But the wilderness was not proof that God had left you. The wilderness was the hidden room of preparation. It was where your false dependencies started falling away. It was where your need for approval began losing its power. It was where your spirit learned to hear God more clearly than the noise of people who only recognized you when they needed something from you. And yes, it hurt. It hurt when the phone stayed silent. It hurt when your finances felt uncertain. It hurt when your body was tired. Your mind was restless, and your future looked like a locked gate. It hurt when you smiled in front of family while silently asking God how much longer you had to carry what no one else even noticed. But there is a kind of preparation that cannot happen in comfort. There is a kind of strength that is not born in applause, but in fire. Daniel did not discover the presence of God outside the furnace. The miracle was revealed inside it. And you, chosen one, have been standing in a furnace that was hot enough to expose every false attachment, but not powerful enough to destroy what God placed in you. The fire could not consume your calling. The wilderness could not erase your name. The silence could not cancel the promise. C.S. Lewis once carried the idea that relying on God is not something we do once and then master forever. It must begin again and again, every day, every hour, especially when our own strength collapses. That is what this season taught you. Not how to look strong, not how to impress people, not how to pretend you were fine. It taught you how to fall back into God when your plans failed, when your heart ached, when your mind was tired of trying to solve a future only heaven could hold. This is why tomorrow matters, because hidden preparation does not stay hidden forever. There comes an appointed time when the tears you cried in private begin to water the ground of visible breakthrough. There comes a moment when the wilderness releases the one it trained. There comes a moment when the furnace opens, and you step out, not smelling like smoke, not looking like defeat, not carrying the identity of what tried to burn you, but wearing the quiet authority of someone who met God in the fire and lived. So do not despise the lonely season. Do not curse the place where you learned to pray without performance, surrender without applause, and keep walking without proof. The wilderness was never your final address. It was the sacred passage between who you were and who God was preparing you to become. And now the hidden preparation is about to become visible breakthrough. Tomorrow is not a wall. Tomorrow is a divine door. And the reason it has felt so heavy is that you are standing close enough to hear the hinges move. For a long time, you thought the closed door meant rejection. You thought the silence meant absence. You thought the delay meant God had passed you by while everyone else found their way forward. But no, chosen one, some doors stayed shut because you were not yet free from the chains that would have followed you through them. Some opportunities waited because your heart was still healing from people who taught you to expect less than the promise. Some answers were held back because heaven was not only preparing the blessing, heaven was preparing you to carry it without losing yourself. Revelation 3:8 says, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. And that is the weight you feel now. Not destruction, not punishment, not the end of your hope. It is the pressure of a door that has been locked through your wilderness, guarded through your furnace, and timed by the hand of God. Tomorrow begins the movement. The peace you begged for in tears will start returning in ways you cannot explain. The confusion that made your thoughts feel like a storm will begin to break apart. The work situation that made you question your value will no longer define your identity. The financial fear that whispered, "You will never have enough," will begin losing its authority over your decisions. The relationship wounds that made you afraid to trust your own discernment will no longer rule the room inside your chest. This is the hidden key. You do not step through the divine door by proving yourself to people who mishandled you. You step through it by surrendering the need to be understood by those God is separating from your next season. You step through it by releasing the old script that said you must earn love through exhaustion, loyalty through silence, and peace through shrinking. God is not opening this door so the old version of you can drag old bondage into a new chapter. He is opening it because the version of you formed in the secret place is finally ready to walk differently. So when tomorrow comes, do not stare at what is leaving as if it were your future. Do not mourn every closed conversation, every fading connection, every sudden distance, every familiar place that no longer feels like home. Some things must lose access before promise can have room. Some voices must fade before God's voice becomes unmistakable. Some rooms must empty before heaven fills them with what was assigned to you from the beginning. This door will not require you to chase. It will require you to obey. It will not require panic. It will require surrender. It will not require you to become someone else. It will reveal who God was making you while you thought nothing was happening. Stay close, because before you step fully through that door, there is one battle you must recognize. You are not just tired. You were under pressure because your destiny was being contested. That heaviness in your mind, that sudden attack of fear before sleep, that strange exhaustion after being around certain people, that invisible resistance every time you tried to pray, plan, heal, build, or move forward, none of it was meaningless. Chosen one. Some battles do not announce themselves with noise. They enter quietly through anxiety, through delay, through confusion, through old memories, through voices that sound like your own thoughts but carry the weight of accusation. They whisper, "You are too late. You are not strong enough. Nothing will change. God has forgotten you." But those whispers were never the voice of heaven. They were the smoke of warfare trying to blur your vision before the door opened. This is why you must recognize the battle before you cross the threshold. Ephesians 6:11 says to put on the full armor of God so you can stand against the schemes of the enemy. Not run, not collapse, not beg darkness to leave you alone. Stand. There is a shield of faith over you. There is truth around you like a belt holding your spirit together when emotions try to scatter you. There is righteousness covering places where shame once tried to define you. There is peace prepared for your steps, even while the ground shakes beneath you. And there is a sword in your mouth every time you speak what God has declared instead of repeating what fear has suggested. The warfare was real, but so is your armor. The darkness pressed hard because it knew you were close to a divine door. It tried to pull you back into the old version of yourself, the version that over-explained, overgave, overthought, apologized for existing, and accepted emotional crumbs because your heart was starving for peace. But God did not bring you through the wilderness to leave you defenseless at the doorway. He trained your discernment in silence. He strengthened your spirit in fire. He taught your hands to stop reaching for chains just because they felt familiar. C.S. Lewis. Through the spiritual insight reflected in the Screwtape Letters, shows how fear of the future can pull a soul out of the present moment, away from trust, away from surrender, away from God's peace right now. That is why the enemy has been trying to make you afraid of tomorrow. Because if fear can make you panic today, you may forget that God is already standing in your tomorrow. You do not need to see the entire blueprint to obey the next instruction. You do not need to understand every delay to trust divine timing. You do not need to defeat every enemy with your own strength. Because the throne of God has never depended on your exhaustion to remain powerful. So breathe. Put on the armor. Guard your peace. Refuse the old voice. Do not return to the pattern just because the unknown feels uncomfortable. If you know this battle has touched your mind, your sleep, your emotions, and your peace, Come on. I put on the armor of God. Declare it like someone stepping out of captivity. Declare it like someone who finally understands that the storm was loud because the breakthrough is near. And stay close. Because now, the battle turns. What was delayed is about to move. The delay did not mean God forgot you. It meant the timing was being protected. Every door that stayed shut. Every answer that seemed late. Every opportunity that slipped away when you thought you were finally ready, none of it was random. And none of it was wasted. Chosen one. Some blessings cannot arrive while your hands are still chained to the wrong season. Some people cannot follow you into a promise because they only know how to recognize you in pain. There are rooms God will not let you enter while your heart is still trained to shrink. Apologize. And question whether you deserve to be there. So the delay was not denial. It was divine protection, wearing the face of waiting. It was heaven guarding the blueprint while your spirit was still being strengthened for the weight of what is coming. You cried because you thought nothing was moving. But God was moving beneath the surface. You worried about money, about work, about your family, about your health, about the future that felt too far away to reach. You asked why the same pressure kept returning, why the same prayers seemed unanswered, why the same doors opened for others while yours remained locked. But hear this, some doors open late because early access would have destroyed your peace. Some relationships are delayed because the wrong connection would have pulled you back into bondage. Some financial breakthroughs wait because God is not only changing what you receive, He is changing what controls you. This is divine timing. This is the appointed hour. Tomorrow carries the sound of movement after a long season of stillness. The floodgates are not opening because you forced them. They are opening because heaven has aligned what human strength could never arrange. The grand design was never broken. The promise was never cancelled. The provision was never lost. It was being held until the version of you who survived the wilderness could receive it without surrendering your soul to fear again. So do not curse the delay. Do not call yourself forgotten. Do not let anxiety rewrite what God has been protecting. What looked like rejection was redirection. What felt like silence was preparation. What seemed like loss was heaven removing weight from your future. And when the timing opens, restoration will not arrive as a theory. It will come with evidence. Your peace will have evidence. Your clarity will have evidence. Your next step will have evidence. Stay close. Because restoration is about to touch the visible world. God is not only healing what was hidden, He is preparing to show evidence in the visible world. For a long time, your restoration felt like something you had to believe without seeing. You prayed while nothing changed. You stayed faithful while the same bills stared back at you. The same work pressure drained your strength. The same family burdens pressed against your heart. The same relationship wounds whispered that maybe this was all you would ever receive. But chosen one, restoration is not just a beautiful word. Restoration is heaven, stepping into the places where loss left fingerprints and declaring, this is not the final condition of your life. What was stolen from your peace will not always have the last word. What drained your mind will not always control your nights. What broke your confidence will not always define how you walk into rooms. God is moving restoration from the hidden place into the visible world. You will begin to see evidence in your thoughts becoming quieter, evidence in your sleep becoming deeper, evidence in your decisions becoming clearer, evidence in your heart no longer trembling every time the past tries to speak, evidence in the way certain people lose their power over your emotions, evidence in doors opening without the old resistance, evidence in opportunities appearing where there used to be only silence. This is not fantasy. This is the sound of divine order returning to places where chaos had overstayed its time. Joel 2:5 carries the promise of restoration. The years that seemed eaten, wasted, stripped, and swallowed being answered by the faithfulness of God. And that is what makes this moment so serious. Heaven is not simply comforting you so you can survive the same prison with softer emotions. Heaven is restoring you so you can leave the prison entirely. The floodgates are not opening to entertain your feelings. They are opening because the appointed time has arrived. The storm is not clearing just so you can remember pain with less bitterness. It is clearing so you can finally see the path that was hidden behind the rain. The divine door is not opening halfway. It is opening with authority. People who doubted you may not understand the change, but they will feel it. Rooms that once ignored you may begin to recognize the weight of what God placed on your life. The future that once looked like a wall will begin to look like a road, and the peace you thought you lost forever will start returning, not as a fragile emotion, but as kingdom evidence. Stay close, because the final secret is not only about what ends tomorrow, it is about who you become after it ends. Here is the final secret: tomorrow is not the end of your story. It is the end of the version of you that had to survive without being seen. It is the end of the silent weight you carried through rooms where nobody asked why your eyes looked tired. It is the end of bending your spirit around people who only loved your availability, not your soul. It is the end of waking up with dread in your chest, wondering how much longer you could keep holding together a life that looked normal on the outside but felt like warfare on the inside. Chosen one. Tomorrow does not come to break you. Tomorrow comes to break what held you captive. The chain around your peace, the fear around your voice, the shame around your past, the pressure around your future, the emotional slavery that made you feel responsible for everyone's comfort while your own heart was collapsing in silence. God is not bringing you to this threshold so you can turn back into the wilderness. He is bringing you here because the old season has expired, and heaven is calling forward the version of you that was being formed in fire. The final secret is this: the door was never locked because you were unworthy. It was guarded until the right moment, until the false attachments weakened, until your discernment sharpened, until your surrender became deeper than your fear. And now the moment is here. You are not what they did to you. You are not the rejection that wounded you. You are not the delay that frustrated you. You are not the nights you cried without answers. You are not the chapter that almost consumed you. You are the one God preserved through the storm. You are the one heaven strengthened in the furnace. You are the one chosen to cross this divine threshold with armor on your spirit and promise in your path. After tomorrow, you do not walk the same. You do not beg for seats at tables God never assigned to your destiny. You do not shrink so others can feel powerful. You do not confuse familiar chains with safety. You step into divine alignment. You move with sacred confidence. You carry a restored identity. Your peace becomes evidence. Your clarity becomes direction. Your obedience becomes the hidden key that opens what no enemy can shut. So when the new day begins, do not mourn the doors that close behind you. Do not chase the voices fading from your life. Do not fear the space God creates, because that space is where the promise will breathe. Come out. Tomorrow I cross the threshold. If your spirit is ready to leave survival behind, like this message if it reached the place you could not explain, subscribe for the next divine word. and share this with someone who needs to remember that God has not forgotten them. Tomorrow does not break you. Tomorrow breaks the chains. And when the new day begins, you rise